It seemed that Sean P. Diddy Combs was untouchable. His name was synonymous with luxury, influence and unlimited power. But this time everything was different. His private jet did not land in the Caribbean for another party, unbridled fame did not open the door for him. Instead, his wrists were squeezed by cold handcuffs, and the door that closed behind him was iron. He was put in solitary confinement, a 3x3-meter concrete box with a thin mattress and a toilet in the corner. There were no motorcades, cocaine parties, champagne and crowds of ecstatic fans. Only silence that pressed on the brain and complete isolation. The guards looked at him without sympathy. His star status meant nothing here. He was just another prisoner in a system that knew no mercy. "Hey, Diddy," someone called through the bars. "Do you like your new VIP room?" The laughter outside the door reminded him that he was no longer the master of his life. But the real hell was still ahead. Only a day had passed, and it seemed like he had been here forever. Time stretched like chewing gum, and the silent walls pressed down on his psyche. P. Diddy was no coward, but even he felt something slowly, invisibly, eating him from the inside. Food, cold and tasteless porridge, came twice a day through a narrow window. The guards did not speak to him, only contemptuously through a metal tray that slid with a clatter across the floor. But then something strange began to happen. At night, when darkness enveloped the cell, he heard whispers. At first, quiet, almost inaudible. "Diddy," a hoarse voice came through the walls. He sat up on the bed, his gaze fixed on the door. His heart was pounding. "You think you're alone here?" Sean stood up abruptly. The voice came from everywhere, as if it were piercing through the concrete walls themselves. "Who's here?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the small room. Silence. He walked around the cell, touching the walls. They were cold, hard, real. But then, why did it seem like someone was breathing on his back? Diddy rushed to the door and slammed his fists. "Hey! Let me out, UF***K. The corridor was quiet. No one answered. But he heard it again. A whisper. And this time the voices sounded closer. P. Diddy was breathing heavily, turning around in the cramped cell like a cornered animal. He had never been afraid. Not on the streets of Harlem, not in the world of big business, not among the intrigues of celebrities. But now, something was wrong. Suddenly the light in the cell flickered, the lamp on the ceiling twitched, then flashed brightly, and went out. Darkness fell. Silence. He went to the door and slammed his fists in it. "Hey! Let me out, you motherfucker!" No one answered. But then he heard it. A faint sound, like scratching. From the corridor. He stopped. The sound grew. Someone scraped against the metal of the cells, as if checking who was sitting there. Diddy listened, and his heart skipped a beat. "Diddy, are you there?" The voice behind the door was dull and mocking. "Who is it?" He flinched. "I was sitting here with you, brother," the voice dropped to a whisper. "And you know what? I came back." Suddenly something slammed heavily on the door from the other side. "Open this fucking door!" Diddy shouted. In response, only muffled laughter and the sound of footsteps slowly receding. And then he realized, the real hell was just beginning. Several hours had passed, but P. Diddy still couldn't fall asleep. The adrenaline was pumping, and the darkness in the cell made it even worse. He didn't know what time it was, there was no clock, no windows. Just concrete walls and a heavy door that awaited the unknown. Suddenly, the lock on the door clicked. The door opened slightly, letting in a narrow strip of light from the hallway. Diddy quickly stood up. "What the hell?" he whispered to himself. There was someone in the hallway. He could see shadows moving in the dim light. "Diddy, what?" you miss the company," a familiar voice said. He knew that tone. Mocking, harsh. The voice of a prisoner with nothing to lose. The door opened even wider, and several silhouettes appeared before him. 3. 4. Strong, stocky figures, their faces lost in the semi-darkness. "Dude, you're the VIP here," one of them laughed hoarsely. "We thought it would be disrespectful not to greet you in person." "What do you want?" Diddy said coldly, hiding his fist behind his back. "Oh, it's simple, bro," said the one in front. "We have our rules here. And you're new. So either you're with us, or you're the victim." Diddy could see their faces now. And he knew he had no choice. P Diddy backed away until his back was against the cold wall. 4 prisoners were gradually entering the cell, blocking the exit. His heart was pounding, but he showed no fear. In this place, weakness meant death. "You were always tough, weren't you?" said one of them, a burly man with a shaved head. "Money, women, luxury. And now you're just like the rest of us." "You're gone," muttered Diddy. "What did you say?" Another prisoner instantly punched him in the stomach. Diddy bent over, the air left his lungs. The second blow was in the face. He felt blood flow from his lip. He was grabbed by the shirt and pressed against the wall. "You're not a star here, Diddy," someone hissed in his ear. Then the blows rained down. Cruel, merciless. In the stomach, in the sides, in the face. He was thrown to the floor, and boots crashed into his ribs with a thud. He tried to gather himself, protecting his head with his hands, but the strength left him. Consciousness was floating. "Remember well," a voice said through the fog of pain. "Either you pay or you die." The final blow to the head and everything went dark. He came to his senses on a hospital bed in the infirmary. His head was splitting, one eye was swollen shut. There was a taste of blood in his throat. "Welcome to the real world, superstar," the security guard standing by the door said grimly. There was no applause, no spotlights. Only pain, shame, and the realization that this wasn't the end. P. Diddy slowly opened the eye that could still see. His head was splitting, his lips were broken, and his ribs were throbbing with pain. Every breath reminded him that his body no longer belonged to him, it was a target, and in this game he was the prey. "How does it feel?" the man in the white coat growled, leaning over him. He was a doctor, but he looked as tired and stiff as everyone else here. "Like after a car accident," Diddy croaked. The doctor smiled crookedly. "There are a lot of car accidents here." The guard at the door snorted and looked up from his magazine. "Remember, Star," he said, "prison is not your stage. You're nobody here until you decide who you want to be. And what are your options?" Diddy croaked, sitting up slowly on the bed. The guard crossed his arms over his chest. "Either you pay someone for protection. Or you become someone's bitch. Or you learn to fight so that people fear you." Diddy ran his tongue over his broken lip, spitting blood. "I'm not going to be anyone's bitch." The doctor sighed and stepped back. "Then you better find allies. Because next time they might not get you to the infirmary." He left some pills and a bottle of water on the nightstand, then left. The guard took one last look at him and followed him out. Diddy was left alone. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The options were shitty, but he would have to play by the new rules. The only question was who would be on his side now. The next morning, P. Diddy slowly got out of his hospital bed. Every movement hurt, but he couldn't afford to stay here for long. In prison, weakness meant death. When the guard opened the door, he was wheeled back to his cell. As he walked, he could feel dozens of eyes watching him. Some looked at him with mockery, some with curiosity, and some assessing whether he was worth paying attention to. At the entrance to the common courtyard, he heard a voice. Hey, Diddy. He turned to see a tall, thin man with numerous tattoos on his neck and arms. It was Ricky, the Snake, one of the prison's veterans, leading his group. Did they welcome you here yet? Snake said, taking a drag on his cigarette. Diddy was silent. Don't be shy, brother. Everyone here is going through something. The question is what you will do next. And what do you propose? Diddy asked quietly. The Snake smiled and threw the cigarette butt on the floor. The choice is simple, either you seek protection and become part of the family, or next time you will be sent not to the infirmary, but to the morgue. Diddy was breathing heavily, looking directly into the Snake's eyes. I will not be anyone's bitch, he repeated. And rightly so, the Snake nodded. But to survive, you will have to learn to fight. He paused, then added. If you want a chance at revenge, come to the yard. I will teach you how to survive in this hell. Diddy stood silent. He knew there was no turning back. He would either become stronger or die. The choice was made.